Indeed we have, as you can see by this scathing look that is coming through the green grass, that we have found Hukumuri. He's not where he was last night at all. He's moved quite a bit. He's quite far to the east now in the drainage line, and so we kind of heard some Franklin's alarm calling. What's he seen? He's seen something. I don't know. I can't see what it is, but he's definitely spotted something. Look at how he kind of just tilted his head up a little bit, and he's watching behind me, and now I'm looking behind me, and I can't see anything of interest. I thought maybe there would be some sort of prey animal or something, but he's definitely locked on to something. Now, it just goes to show how incredible their senses are. Maybe he's heard something, and that's why he's just lifted his head slightly and shifted to kind of look almost past us to try and see what's going on behind us. He is very aware of what's going on, and he doesn't seem to have that carcass anymore. I can't see any sign of a kill. Where he's lying is not exactly a very dense area. It's much more open than what we were in yesterday, and there's no big trees around, so I don't think the carcass is still here. Here we go. He's up and moving now. Let's see where he goes. But look at the size of this tummy as he comes over. You can see he's got a big round tummy. Rick, you're wondering how far Hukumuri is from Thandi and the cub right now. Well, he's probably, if you had to do leopard walking time in a straight line, I would say 15 minutes if he walked a hard walk. We are now sitting northwest of Twin Dams in the drainage line that we've seen Thandi in shadow many times. So that's where we are currently. Look, you see he's got a scent mark, so it's difficult for you guys to see. I'm going to try and get forward, but he's busy going to the toilet as well. Delightful. It doesn't look like a very nice toilet time either. It looks like he's just had a big meal. So there we go. There's my scat collection opportunity. I'm not going to do that right now because, well, that's a little on the fresh side. We'll come and get it a bit later after drive. Is probably a good idea. We're also going to try and avoid driving over it because that's not going to be pleasant either. But he's moving up towards the road, which is good news. So I'm going to try and keep up with him. But like I say, he's northwest of where Thandi and the cub are at the moment, and it's not very far at all. In fact, if he wanted to, you could probably get very close to them quite quickly. We know that this male likes to walk quite a bit. Now, are you going to go back into this drainage line? Please don't go inside here. It looks like he is. Now, Ferg, I suggest you block your nose because there's not going to be a very pleasant smell that we're about to go over. And yesterday's anything to go by. He had a bit of a sort of toilet time yesterday, and that was not very pleasant. Yep, there it is. It's that lovely pungent smell of a leopard. Okay, he's going around. Is he going around the mound? It looks like it. Let's just jump around here quickly. I was hoping he was going to go onto the road. It would have been far easier to kind of negotiate than where he's heading. It looks like he's heading back down to where that carcass was and the impenetrable fortress that is that drainage line. But we should get a view from here. Let's just go forward a little bit. There we go, Ferg. He is an intimidating fellow, though, and I also find that he's got this kind of funny way that he sits or stands. His legs almost bow a little bit, so he's got this kind of bow-legged approach to life. So there he comes. Now, it was pity because he was just kind of standing there and had his legs out slightly, and he looks almost, like I say, like these short, stocky dogs breeds that we get in the world. There he comes, slowly moving. Now, he is heading back to where this carcass was yesterday, so I wonder if maybe it's somewhere down below. Do you want to walk here, my boy? Okay, yep, hold on. So there's a little path that comes in front. I don't know if you can see it. So I'm going to just reverse back slightly just to see if he wants to walk on that path so that we don't block it for him and don't send him into the drainage. That should be enough space, although he's still trying to kind of get relaxed in terms of really trusting the vehicles too much. So let's see, though. Yes, there we go. He was just waiting for us to be able to move out the way so he could walk on that pathway past where the car was parked. So sometimes you just got to kind of look at what's running in front of that leopard, and there you can see, if you're wondering if he's not a relaxed individual, that he is incredibly relaxed nowadays. It's amazing the difference that 6 weeks to sort of 2 months can make with a male leopard in an area. Once he starts to feel like he's confident enough to mate with females and scent mark, they become a lot more relaxed, a lot quicker, which is really good news. So it's also a lot of effort has gone into kind of keeping up with him and trying to follow him as much as possible over the last little bit. Right, let's get behind him. He's got his nose to the ground again, so I wonder if he's not picking up some sort of scent. Maybe it's where his carcass was dragged by hyenas. I don't see any drag marks. No, he's heading straight down to where that carcass was. So let's see. I wonder if he hasn't just stashed it somewhere and put it in a thicket, and that's why we just can't see it at the moment, is because it's been stashed away inside of this thicket. Could be the case. Where are you sneaking off to? You are going down there, aren't you? So, Madison, you say Hukumuri is a gangster. Well, he does look a bit kind of serious and gangster-like, doesn't he? He's not the most massive male leopard, and I've seen a few comments online where people say that he's an extremely small leopard, which he's not. He's not an extremely small leopard, I can tell you that right now. He's a leopard that is bulky, and he is maybe shorter than some of the other males, but he's not a small leopard by any stretch of the imagination. And he is putting on a lot of weight. Since the first time he was seen, I can tell you now that he's not a tiny little individual. I've seen a few leopards in my lifetime, and he certainly is impressive and has got an imposing sort of demeanor to him. Right, now he's heading back down into this thicket. Whether or not we're going to be able to get a view of him again, I'm not quite sure. We're going to try. Let's see how we go. But while we kind of try and keep up with him and see where he ends up and what he's up to, let's send you back to Brent Leo Smith, who's got a beautiful view of the Mara sunrise. Well, a glimpse is all we're going to get, because somewhere in the depths of that abyss of tangled branches and grasses and various other things lies the Hukumuri male. Now, you would never, ever, ever in your life know that there is a leopard inside there. If you walked past here, drove past here, did anything, you would not see him. The only reason we know he's there is because we watched him disappear into it. But I can see he's watching us through that thicket. There you can see his head is moving a little bit behind all of the branches. But he really is well camouflaged inside there, and it is the perfect place for a leopard to spend time. He's gone flat again. I think he's having a really good nap inside there, so I don't know if we're going to get too much from him. Oh, up again. Now, hopefully what's going to happen is, what's happening to us is that there are 1 billion flies all around us, maybe even 2 billion. There are literally flies absolutely everywhere, and I'm hoping that they are going to irritate him as much as they are irritating us, and that he gets out and walks somewhere else. But it doesn't look like it. It looks as though he's firmly planted himself, at least for now, in this dense thicket, and has decided this is where he's going to rest. Now, in terms of Shadow and Not Barbara and Tundi and all these kind of things, well, I'm not sure where Shadow and Cub are at the moment. They apparently have been seen on Hofmann's, and were seen on the Little Gowrie Hofmann's boundary as well, right at the beginning of February. So where they've gone from there, I'm not quite sure. Hofmann's is not an area that is traversed nearly as much as some of the others. So it's only Chitwa and Arathusa that go onto that area. And so it's possible that she's there. I'm pretty sure that she's being just like Tundi and just keeping a very low profile at the moment, and making sure that doesn't attract too much attention to herself, trying to keep kind of out of the way of what's going on with the males. Tingana evidently is not his normal self, because Tingana normally would have been patrolling Djuma, would have been here, and we know that he hasn't. We haven't picked up tracks for him. We haven't seen him on Djuma in quite some time. Even though we are seeing him, all of the sightings recently have been down on Chitwa. So he hasn't actually been seen on Djuma for, as far as I know, the entire month. And so it begs the question as to what happened. Did he run across Hukumuri at some point? I don't know. I don't think so. We haven't seen any signs of that happening, and we certainly haven't seen Hukumuri on Djuma when Tingana was around, so it's difficult to say. But I feel like the females know there's a shift and a change, and what they're doing is just trying to push themselves into wherever Tingana still is, just to try and protect themselves as much as possible. So it's probably why Tundi, Shadow have all kind of pushed further southeast into towards Chitwa, where Tingana has been roaming around, and that's probably why they're there. It could be that Tingana isn't up this way just because of the number of cubs that are around that area. He feels like he needs to patrol that section a lot more, but it's difficult to know, and well, only time will tell. Now, talking about cubs and these kind of things, I believe Tundi's little one is starting to play and jump around all over the place as only it can. So let's go across and have a little cuteness overload with Scotty. I am on the hunt for Hukumuri Boisterous Brent, and we can see him. He's come out a little bit, but I'm just trying to figure out a way to get some sort of view of him without going down this massive bank. So let's just see if maybe we go this way. I don't know if we're going to get much, but let's try. There we go. So Fergus says to me thumbs up and that we're in a good spot and that we'll be able to see him. He has come out a little bit, which is good news. So he's in a situation where he's a little bit more kind of out in the open, and hopefully we're going to be able to at least watch him. He's sleeping down there, but there we go. You can at least see his rosettes this time and actually see his face when his face is up. But he's a tired boy, a tired full male, and so I don't think he's going to be nearly as active as what Tundi is, but it was worth just coming back and checking. But at least we can see him now. Like I say, it's worth staying here and having a look. There is an elephant bull that's not too far away that might come and disturb his little nap as well. So it's going to be a situation where we're going to have to be a little bit patient. But you can see he's breathing quite heavily. He's almost got an oval shape to his tummy, not the sort of normal straightish shape. There's this big bulge both at the bottom and on the sides, and so it's a cat that is content, happy in the shade, and I'm sure he's going to have a really nice nap as he digests his baby kudu. Now, he is lying under a rather large tambuti tree, and so I was thinking to myself, I wonder if this carcass is not being placed somewhere in this tambuti that he's underneath at the moment, but I don't see anything. I can't see any signs of it. Maybe he's just wolfed down the entire thing and it's all finished now, and that's why he's got such a big sort of tummy at the moment. So you can see some of the vegetation that he's kind of hiding behind, and it's amazing to actually see how camouflaged they are. But luckily he's come out a little bit, so maybe he decided where he was just far too thick. I think the flies are giving him a bit of trouble as well. I know when we were parked down there that there were flies absolutely everywhere, and you can see them buzzing around his whiskers and around his ears and eyes. So there are lots and lots in that area, and that might drive him to come and sit somewhere else, which will be quite good. Now, while Hukumuri has a little rest and decides to have a bit of a nap, and we'll kind of sit here and see what he gets up to, but let's send you back across to Scotty and Tundi, who I believe is still up and moving. Sitting here with this Hukumuri male, he all of a sudden jumped up and went. There he is, there he's in front, and that's because wild dogs ran through here. So the dogs are somewhere about. He's busy watching. That's why he's kind of down and hunched over and keeping a low profile. But we saw one wild dog just run through here, and we can't find where it's gone. It's kind of doing circles around. So I thought I'd come back to him in case they were chasing him around. But so far he seems to have managed to kind of fly under the radar, and that the dogs are somewhere on our left-hand side. But absolute kind of chaos just when dogs arrive. You never know what's going to go on, and that's why he obviously got into a situation where he got up and out of the drainage and is now kind of watching, and he keeps having his head down, sort of staring behind us, because that's where we last saw one of the wild dogs run past. Now, I don't know how many dogs are actually here. I think it's maybe a pack of 8 dogs that were seen yesterday. You can see, look how he's looking around. Maybe the dogs are going to appear out of this thicket at some point. Who knows? They kind of, anything can happen with wild dogs, as you know, and we just saw the one bolting past us, so we couldn't find it again. I went towards Treehouse Dam, came back around, and I didn't see anything. So I'm going to try and maybe do another loop and just check if I can pick them up while he's still sleeping. I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't being chased by them and not up in a tree or something like that, and all of them were underneath in this area. But it's amazing what can happen. Sometimes you can go from a sleepy sort of static sighting to just absolute pandemonium in about 2 seconds. So now that we know where he is and where he's sitting, I just want to go back out a little bit and just check if there's not any sign of the dogs behind me again. They were kind of running around all over the place, and like I say, we just saw the one would have a good shot. So it means that the dogs, I think, have run past probably, and we've probably seen the last of them in this particular section. They might have moved off a little bit, and hopefully Scotty will have more luck than what we've had in relocating them. But what an epic way to spend a morning. It's all kind of happening. Maybe not. Maybe the dogs are back coming this way. If they pick up the scent of the kill, I wouldn't be surprised they move in this direction. Dogs like to traumatize leopards, especially if they're in big packs. They'll often push leopards into trees. But he's looking around and so kind of having a watchful eye on what's going on, and he's looking in the direction that we last saw those dogs. So let's just kind of be patient. Like I say, maybe the dogs do a loop and end up coming back around into this section and we actually get to see them again. You never know. He's certainly looking in those directions and keeping a beady eye on what's going on, and his eyes certainly are quite menacing. So if any wild dog comes, maybe they'll get a little bit kind of petrified by the fact that this male is staring at them, and he'll get away with it. But who knows? It's going to be interesting to see. Like I say, there was a pack of 18 yesterday somewhere in this northern sector. I don't quite know where, but there was a pack of 8, so I would surmise that it's the same pack. Obviously, it might be a different one. We know that there's the pack of 3, the Lower Sabi pack that moves around, which is very difficult to find them. And then there's a couple of other packs that we have, and lots of distribution of dogs at the moment. So who knows? I mean, there could be just a one lone dog running around, but I think that in all likelihood it's probably the pack of 8 that is here. Now, of course, there would be one branch straight across his face. That is how these things go. Ferg, you know what? I'm going to just remove us slightly because the branch across his face is ridiculous. And so I'm going to try and just get Ferg in a slightly better area, because if I go round this other little bush here, I should have a situation where I can kind of get Ferg around the bush and therefore through the gap a little bit better. So if we go somewhere like this, Ferg. Oh, hold on. I just don't want to get hit. There we go. Right, now, while I try and get myself into a better spot for Fergus, let's send you back across to Scotty for an update and see what he's up to on his side of the world. I'm going to come back here. Scotty D, there's no imaginary friends. I have witness who can testify to the fact that there was a wild dog, and I know the difference between a wild dog and a duiker. I know I'm going a bit scatty and getting old these days, but I do know at least the difference between those two. And it's fine. They're going to show up back here again, and I'm going to get them on camera, and then you guys are all going to be feeling bad about making fun of me. Anyway, we managed to... Hukumuri this morning. He's kind of up and down and in and out and round and about, and he just doesn't want to seem to settle anywhere. But at least we've got some sort of view of him now at the top of his head, as he's decided to go back into the drainage line to have a little bit of a nap and a bit of a sleep. So he's back into the same spot. It's very close to where we first had him, but he's kind of very well hidden by that grass. And so I'm hoping that what happens is he comes and lies out a little bit, because there's a nice sort of open sandy patch that is damp sand, which must be nice and cool. And so if he goes and lies there, that's going to be a lot better for us. Also, I hope, like I say, that the dogs come back, because anytime dogs and leopards are together, it's always a good thing. Scott says it's reverse karma, that this is what's going to happen, is that we're not going to prove him wrong. I don't know. I didn't get most of that. But anyway, Scotty, I hope that Scott finds them. I really do. That's what I'm hoping for, is that Scott manages to pick them up and that they kind of are in the road. Like I say, it was just one dog that we saw. So, you know, the chances of finding one dog again when it's at full speed across a road is not going to be very easy. I'm just hoping he picks up the rest of the pack and that the dog then joins. Eileen, I agree. Scotty D needs to do his dance to bring them out. He does a very good wild dog dance. Just now he was telling you all that he doesn't know how to dance, but he's lying. He's got this wild dog dance that he does sometimes, and it definitely works. The last time we saw the wild dog, Scotty had done his wild dog dance the night before, telling us that the dogs would come. So he's lying to you if he tells you that he doesn't know how to dance and that he doesn't know what he's doing, because he's got a serious set of feet on him, and even Fred Astaire would be jealous of Scott Dyson's wild dog display. What do you think, Ferg?
Scott is basically just like Michael Jackson.
Scott is like Michael Jackson. There we go. He's that good, and we just need to give him a white glove and some shoes, and off he goes. He can go and do his dog dance, and hopefully the doggies will come out. I, of course, can't do any dance because obviously I'm sitting with a leopard, and that would disturb the leopard, so that rules me out for now.
Disturb me too.
And it would disturb you as well, Fergus. That is very true, because unlike many other members of our team, my feet are both left feet, and therefore do not work well when it comes to dancing and doing these things. Unfortunately, it's just a mess that takes place. So there will be none of that from me, and we don't want to. We've just seen Hukumuri arriving onto Djuma, and we certainly don't want to scar him for the rest of his life with a image of me dancing, and well, Fergus as well. I put Fergus through enough. I've fallen out of a car with Fergus, which meant he almost fell out of a car, and so I don't think I can scar Fergus any more than what I already have in my short time. But I think our male leopard is going to be just sitting, taking it very easy now. And the dogs kind of woke him up for a little bit. He had a little look around, realized that not much was going on, and back down for a bit of a nap. I wonder, maybe though, just thinking about it, I wonder if those dogs maybe didn't grab some of this carcass or something like that, because he came from the direction that these dogs came from. And like I say, Battalier eagles, which is generally an indication of some sort of food. So I wonder if maybe, just maybe, some of his kudu kill was stolen by the dogs, and that's why he kind of came from that area. I'm not 100% sure. It's difficult to say, but it's interesting that he kind of hasn't fed this morning, and we can't see any sign of this carcass. But his behavior going back and forth, I suppose, indicates that there is a carcass here somewhere, and that he is still feeding on something, because he wouldn't be coming back to the same spot every time if there wasn't food here for him. Amazing though, the camouflage. Like I say, if you came whizzing past here and doing your normal driving routine, and even driving slowly at 10, 20 kilometers an hour, to spot that would be almost impossible. You'd have to really know that there's a leopard in there, otherwise you've got no chance. His spots just break up his outline, and the sort of thickness of the drainage and the dappled light that's coming through here means that there really is just absolutely no way that we would see them. And it begs the question, how many times do we drive past leopards that are just like this? Probably more than we even know. Right, so now I believe Scott has stretched, he's warmed up, he's got his sweatbands on, he's shined his... Indeed we are, Brent. It is a very, very warm welcome to DPS Siddharth Vihar from India. It's wonderful to have you all with us. I hope that you are going to have the most wonderful time with us. Remember that you can ask lots and lots of questions about any of the African animals, and you can do that by sending it through to your teacher, and your teacher will then send it all the way to us, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Fergus, so there we go. Now, we're sitting with a beautiful male leopard. So there's a male leopard that is in the bushes down below, and we've had him here for the last sort of 24 hours. And the reason why he's here and hidden in this thick bush is because he has a kill inside here. So he managed to kill an antelope called a kudu. Now, a kudu is a medium-sized antelope, so it's probably a little larger than some of the deer that you guys get in India, and so it's a perfect prey animal for a leopard, especially a little baby kudu, because baby kudus are much smaller and much easier to grab. And so he's killed it, and then he's dragged it into this thicket so that none of the other predators that are here can find it. So things like hyenas, wild dogs, lions, and other leopards won't be able to smell the smell of the kill down in the riverbed system, and so it's a perfect place for him to hide away and to be able to keep his kill out of the way of those predators. It's also good because it's shady and it's nice and cool down there. Here in Africa, we're in our summer and it is hot at the moment. We can get days that go up to 40 degrees Celsius, and so inside this drainage line, we've had a bit of rain recently, and the sand inside there is nice and damp, and that with the shade means it's very cool to lie there, and that's why he's in there, is to try and lie down. Now you can see he's having a bit of a grooming session. This is often the case with the leopards. They like to groom themselves and they like to get themselves nice and clean. This particular male has got a few ticks on him because it's summer, and summer the ticks breed and they get much more, and so there's a few ticks, and that's what he's busy doing, is he's scratching, trying to get rid of the ticks, as well as using his rough tongue to clean his coat and make sure that he gets himself into really good condition. So it's a perfect way for a leopard to get himself kind of nice and clean, and it's the way they basically shower, much like how we would scrub ourselves with a brush. They just use their claws and their tongue to be able to do it. But there you go, you can see he's kind of stood up now, and he's going to scratch the side of his head, but hopefully him standing up is going to mean that he moves a little bit more into the open, because at the moment he's very well hidden inside this thicket. And that's why they're so difficult to find, is because leopards often like to lie in places like this. It's so hard to see them. You can imagine if he lies down properly, and you'll see now when he walks, look at how his coat just disappears behind those bushes. You see how it becomes very difficult to see him? It's almost impossible. It looks as though he just blends in, and that's why he's got that spotted coat, is because those black markings just break up his outline and make it much harder for us to be able to see him. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just reposition ourselves and park in a slightly different place, because I think we'll be able to see him quite nicely, although he's looking as though he might move. But if we just move slightly, we might have a situation where we can actually see his whole body, not behind all the trees, but right out into the open. You see, look, he's going to lie down hopefully there, and we just need to put ourselves slightly differently, and we're going to be able to see him really nicely. So I'm going to move quickly and just get you into a better spot. Now, hold on. So let me go around quickly. I'm going to just go around because I think we're going to have a much better opportunity to see him from around this little bush. There's a really nice spot that's quite open that we should be able to see his whole body, I think. I might be wrong, and we might have to come back to where we were, but we might get this right. Now, remember that you must ask lots and lots of questions. We love to hear from you, so don't forget to ask lots. And while you're thinking about your questions about this leopard, I'm going to send you to my friend Scott, who's out and about, not very far from where I am, and he's looking for some wild dogs. It is out from the bush, but he's gone back to sleep, and you can see he's got a really big full belly, and that's because he's been eating his kudu over the last couple of days, and so he's fed nicely, and that means his tummy is really swollen. And the problem with a very swollen tummy is that you can see, look how much he's breathing. He's breathing quite fast, and so it's not because he's sick, it's because his stomach is so full, it pushes up on his lungs, and it means he's only able to take a little bit of air. So he breathes and is short breaths because there's too much pressure on the lungs from the bottom, and his diaphragm is being pushed up, and the lungs can't expand as big as they normally can, and so that's why he's breathing. The other side of it is because he's hot. As his body is trying to break down all of these proteins inside of the tummy that he's eaten, and the meat, it uses a lot of energy, and that causes this to get really kind of hot, and so panting helps to be able to cool him down. And so what I'm talking about when I say panting is that it's very quick breaths that he's taking, and he does that with his mouth open. And what happens is, you know, inside your mouth that you have saliva and it's wet inside there. And so as he's breathing, the hot air coming out is causing the moisture in his mouth, or the water inside his mouth, to evaporate. And so it causes it, as it evaporates, that causes cooling, and the cooling then cools the blood in the tongue and in the mouth, and that cooler blood is then pushed back into the body. And it's how the cats cope with being in hot environments, and so why we can see cats in both India and in South Africa, or Africa in general, that they can cope with these hot African or Indian days that we have all over the place. So it really is a clever system for big cats to have, and it is needed, otherwise they wouldn't be able to live in these environments. But he is really having a good sleep, and this is what leopards do when they've got a kill and when they've fed, is that they have a really good nap. And the reason why they sleep a lot is because at the end of the day they're quite active animals, and they use a lot of energy when they are hunting. So they'll chase something, and that uses lots and lots of energy. So when they're not hunting and not scent marking and patrolling territory, it's good for them to rest and just to keep that energy, because they don't know when their next meal is going to come. So they try and use every little bit of energy and then sleep when they can to. Biode, you're wondering what is the best time of the year for a jungle safari? Well, unfortunately, I don't really know the answer to that, because here in South Africa, we don't have a jungle. So we've got what we call a savanna. Now, savanna is the environment that we're in, which is basically really good grassland mixed with a whole bunch of trees that makes a perfect environment for our animals to survive. And the best time of the year for a safari is, well, any time of the year. And I'll tell you why. The reason is that it depends on what you like. If you want to see more of the animals and have it easier to see the animals, then the winter months is always better. And that's normally from around sort of end of May all the way until October. The reason why those months are good for animals is because it is very dry here. So the bush gets dead and the grass dies back, and it's much easier to see. And also there's not very much water, and so the animals congregate and go to water points where they can then drink and try and get water from there, and that brings prey and predators all to the same spot. Then you go into your spring months, and your spring months are amazing because the bush changes from this brown, dead, desolate environment to this lush, green, thick, beautiful place, and that's when you'll see a lot of kind of insects starting to come out, baby animals being born, and it really is a time of change. Then we go into the summer months, and that's when all our migratory birds come, and we've got lots of insects out, and it's very colorful. There's flowers everywhere, and it is a beautiful time of the year to see all the sort of beauty of insects and flowers and birds and those kind of things. And then we go into our autumn months, where everything sort of starts to get dry again, and so the animals start to become easier to find. So any time of the year is good. There's always something around to be seen, and we now are in the middle of our summer, and you can see we've got a beautiful male leopard here that we can watch. So it doesn't matter at the time of the year. You can come any time on a safari and you'll have things to see, and that's the best thing about the bush and being out here in Africa, is that we are so lucky that there are lots and lots of different types of animals, and even when it's the wet months, when we're getting lots of rain, we can still find things like leopards and lions and giraffes and elephants and these kind of things. So it really is a great place to be, and we're very lucky that we can have access to it any time of the year. We don't get big monsoons that close this place down and make it very difficult for us to move around. We do get big rainstorms, but generally we are able to drive every single day of the year. 365 days we can be out and in the bush and looking for animals, which is really very, very cool. Now you'll find every now and then you'll see his ears and his face and his coat twitching, and that's because there's lots of flies around at the moment. And this morning we had lots of flies all over us, and they'll be driving him crazy. The reason why flies are landing on him is for two reasons. One is because he's been eating meat, and so that smell will attract him. You know, if you leave a plate of food outside, then flies often will come and try and land on them. The other thing is that they're trying to get moisture off him, so they're trying to get bits of water, and they're getting that from his saliva around his mouth, around his nose area, and even from where his eyes are. And so that's why they land in those areas and drive him absolutely mad. Right, well, he's still sleeping, he's still taking it very easy, and so while I see if he's going to wake up and get moving, let's send you back to Scott and see what he's up to. I know he's driving around, but maybe he's found something interesting to show all of you. Well, we've just moved a little bit so we can try and see our male leopard's face a little better. He's having a really good nap now. Hopefully he'll start to wake up just now and maybe get us a view of his face, because he really does have a beautiful face with amazing eyes that looks through at you, and you kind of feel like he's slicing through you as he watches what you're doing. Now, I have to agree with Scotty. I would love to go and see tigers. We have one presenter that is with us that has seen tigers, and he says that they are absolutely amazing. So I think one day a trip to India would be really nice. And also, I would love to go up into the sort of northern reaches of Rajasthan and try and go and have a look at the leopards that hang around up there as well, which would be quite cool. So there's some amazing things in India as well as in Africa, and it's nice that there are some similarities, but I definitely agree with Scotty. A tiger would be an amazing thing to go and see. Now, if we came across this leopard and you were wondering why we're calling him a male and how we know he's a male, there's two things about him. One is that his size. He's much bigger than any of the females that we get. Leopards in the males generally are double the size than those of the females, so they're much, much larger than what the females are. And if you look underneath his chin, you'll see that he's got a flap of skin that is hanging on the ground there. That's called a dewlap. Now, the females don't get dewlaps, the males get them, and so that's another way that you can tell he is a boy. Right, now I'm going to hope that this male is going to look at us at some point, and while I hope for that, let's send you all the way across to the Masai Mara and my friend Brent, who's got some feathered friends to show you. Well, and fortunately Scotty's got a few little technical issues where he is, and that's what happens when we're out live in the bush. And so you're back with us. You can see our leopard is wide-eyed now. He's got his eyes open and is just watching us as we kind of sit here. He's sort of taking everything in and just seeing what we're up to. Every now and then there's a bit of a breeze that's blowing, and that's what wakes him up. Now, Pawani, you want to know if I like this profession. So yes, I do. I love it. I love being out here every single day. It's amazing to be in the wilds of Africa, to be able to spend time with leopards and lions and elephants and all kinds of other animals. and then to be able to share it with all of you around the world. So, you know, not only you, but everybody else that watches our show that is in every different country that we have. And so I always enjoy the fact that we're able to share that and to be able to tell people and educate people about the wild of Africa and what goes on out here and how precious these wildlife areas are, because ultimately we're going to have a situation where they are being lost at a rate of knots, and we need to be able to protect them and look after them. So if we can show lots of people what's going on and educate them on the animals, well, that's very, very special. And hopefully one day, maybe some of you will even end up being rangers or doing things like this in your country or even here in Africa. So that's the idea behind it. Right. Unfortunately, though, it's that time of the day where we're going to be finishing up. So we're going to be saying goodbye. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. I hope that you have a wonderful day at school and that you learn lots of things. We're going to leave you with a view of our leopard to finish. And for all of our regular viewers, thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll see you all this afternoon on our sunrise safari.